teamwork makes the dream work. So anyway, back to this video, right? This video, I know sometimes we watch videos and we're like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It is going to matter, and so I need your full attention on this video. And so if you wouldn't mind, Jeff, without further ado.
See if I get your thoughts on the game.
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I'm not gonna ever. I'm always a Jets fan, but like, I hate this team.
Can I just say, thank you, Lord Jesus, that it was not a Bears fan. Like that's all I need. I felt that. I don't know who said that, but I feel that. It was sent in my family group chat. We giggled, we mocked. There's some of us, myself included, that cried. Because it's true, right? Like, I'm born into it. I'm never not going to be it. But make no mistake about it. I hate this team. Right? I can't say that right now. We're 4-2, but I do understand that starting today, last year when we were 4-2, we went 0-10, and so there's no room to be excited. We're just taking a day at a time. I don't know. God may come back before 12:15, which would be great, and then we won't have to watch it and know. But regardless, right? This idea, this truth, this video. Now, it's funny. It's really funny because God loved that kid. I hope my kids deal with it. I dealt with it, all of that stuff. And some of you are like, haha, funny on you. But it's football. Doesn't mean anything. How many of you walk around in your Christian life like that? I'm born into it. I'm never going to not be it. But I hate this team. Listen, let's be very clear. That guy asking the question didn't ask this young man a question because he looked jovial and excited and happy to be at the Jets game where they just got thumped and their quarterback, who was one of our quarterbacks, is still really terrible in the system. There was intention in asking that question because there was some outward indication that he may be having an internal struggle. It's funny to make fun of, it's funny to mock, it's funny to see, but the reality is this: how many of you in your Christian walk around and that is your billboard for who Jesus is? That's your billboard for who Christ is. The Christian is. That's the billboard for what you show when you live life and people look at you. Sorry. ADHD. People look at you and they go, oh, there's a Christian in your life. The way you live, the way you act, the way you speak, the way you think, how you live says, I hate this team. I'm born into it. I'll never not be it. But I hate this team. Trust. As a Bears fan over the last few decades, I've not been recruiting anyone to fandom. Why? Because it's full of stress, bro. Like, listen, I married 2 kids a few weeks ago or a week ago, and honest, I couldn't get through in good conscience without going, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life. Do you understand what you're doing? It's all lovey-dovey right now. But till death do us part, sometimes is beg. Right? It's hard. And so you tell people what's coming. Christian, I need you to hear. Some of you live your life like this, and this is how people see Jesus. Hey, come be a Christian. I hate this team. I'm never not going to be this. I'm never not going to do this. But come to church on Sunday morning after you've been out all Saturday night. Give up your Saturday afternoon to come put treats in a trunk and dress up and look weird and let children come up and basically harass you for sugars and sweets. We're in this book. I've had multiple people tell me, I don't think I've ever heard a sermon series preached on Ecclesiastes. That's one of the reasons I'm doing it. I've never heard it either, and I've only read. Let me stop and back up. I've only read it, not very well, obviously, a few times. This is the hardest thing that I've ever gone through. Walking through this book, understanding that this idea, this truth, that Hebel, everything is Hebel. Everything is worthless. Everything is meaningless. Had a conversation with a guy, makes a comment, says, I got to grasp the idea that my children are Hebel. Hebel. Everything is Hebel. We've been walking through this idea, the teacher, right? Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, the book of Ecclesiastes was written by someone who wrote from the perspective as a teacher. And so the writer says, I'm the writer, but you're going to hear the words of the teacher. And the teacher, we got who cares arguments, I don't care, but when you read the book, it lends itself to believe that it could be King Solomon, right? The wisest of the wise, the man who had it all. We've been looking at how he's lived his life to go, okay, since I can go the whole pendulum swing from good is good to bad is bad, I'm going to search the breadth, I'm going to search all of it. I'm going to try to find to see what's the best, because just like from our childhood on up, we have a desire to grow, to learn. Some of us get lazy, but that doesn't mean that the desire's not there. It's just been squashed by other things. But we're not talking about that today. The idea, right, is the desire to learn, to search, to know. The teacher went through this all, and we've been breaking down how he looks at if you put anything up and you make that your focus, it will ultimately lead you to a point where it's meaningless and it's worthless. Chapter 5 and 6 is no different. We've clumped them together, and I encourage you to read them both, because I'm only going to skim over some of this, because contentment. Do we know what this word is, right? I asked some students on Thursday at FCA. Contentment, not contempt with a P, content with a T. Contentment. I said, what is contentment? What does it mean? And the student says, to be happy with what you have. And I thought, nails. You killed it. To be happy with what you have. Now, understand the argument in the church sometimes is, well, God doesn't call you to be happy. He calls you to be faithful. Fair. But based on Ecclesiastes, I'm pretty sure he's called you to be happy as well. Starts off in Ecclesiastes, starts off in Ecclesiastes 5 in a section that talks about fear in God. It seems weird, it seems awkward in what he's talking about, but when you don't take 7 days in between these chapters and you read them as it was written, a letter, one continuous thing, for some of you that are younger, right? If you read it as one text message, like it's supposed to be written, one text message, if you read it that way, it makes a little more sense. But in the very first few verses of this chapter, chapter 5, we're going to read verse 1 and verse 2. The teacher says, guard your steps when you come to the house of God. To draw near to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools. I tried to cover the mic. That was terrible. Terrible job. For they do not know that they are doing evil. Listen to this. Guard your steps when you come to the house of God. Where we live at right now, where we are at in this building, this is not the house of God. I don't care if your kids run, have fun. I don't care if there's holes in the walls. I mean, I do to a degree, Ken. I get it. But like if things happen, things break because we're doing stuff, like that happens. That's just part of it. It's called doing kingdom work. Where is the house of the Lord? You, wherever your body goes, right? And so guard your steps when you go to the house of the Lord. When are you supposed to guard your steps? All the time. Draw near to listen. To draw near to listen is better than the offer of the sacrifice of fools. Now, remember, right? We talked about a long time ago. Cain and Abel both gave an offering. One was regarded, one wasn't. Why? Intentionality. If you're coming to the foot of God to listen to what he says to you, specifically to you, that is way better than for you going and saying, well, I'm doing my checklist. I'm marking off what I need to do. I'm going to church. I'm participating in trunks retreats. I'm serving. I'm giving. I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. But if you're never listening to what God has to say to you, listen, it's pretty easy to understand why you walk around going, I hate this team. If you don't ever let God speak to you, it's very easy to walk, or it's very easy for me. It may not be for you, but it's very easy for me to understand why you walk around going, I hate this team. I'll never leave, never change, but man, I hate this team. You keep reading into 2. He says, don't be rash with your mouth, not let your heart be hasty. Let me read this again. Do not be rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God, for God is in heaven and you are on earth. Therefore, let your words be few. The idea that teachers is speaking to the reader, the listener, is you need to be mindful of how you approach God and what you say to God. Job is a phenomenal place for you to see that someone can say the things that they want to say to God and have an actual conversation with God, but trust and know that when you look at Job's life and you read, his conversation doesn't end the way you normally think those conversations would end. If you take the ability, the freedom to go, I get to say what I feel, how I feel, unfiltered and true, God gets to do the exact same thing. And that's exactly what he did with Job. God is in heaven. You are on earth. You are the created, not the creator. We get this in a terrible way when it comes to parenting, but every parent has looked at your kid and gone, who do you think that you are? I'm the parent. And if you haven't, you're doing it wrong. Spare the rod, spoil the child. That's what Mom always said as she beat me. No, I'm just kidding, Mom. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, Mom. Sorry. That one slipped through. Let's get serious. The writer's talking about, or the teacher's talking about, you need to watch your words with God, right? We've gone from wisdom to folly, right? We've lived in all wisdom in this letter. We've lived in all folly in this letter. We've enjoyed life. We've worked. But as he keeps going, after he says you need to watch what you're saying when you approach God because of who God is. Jumping in, let's jump over to verse 8 for me. We start 8 through the rest of 6. This is one sort of thought. It says in verse 8, if you see in a providence the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter. Time out. You're telling me at this point in time in history, however long ago, thousands of years ago, this man wrote that if you see opposition or oppression of the poor, if you see oppression of the poor, if you see violation of justice, which simply means injustice, and you see a violation of righteousness, simply meaning unrighteousness, not of rightness. If you see things that are bad, don't be amazed. Why do good things happen to bad people? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why are the homeless so downtrodden? Why are there families that don't have? Why are there kids through the system? Why is the medical expenses that we accumulate, why are they so burdening and bearing, right? It's greed, it's this, it's that. Why are we surprised? We shouldn't be surprised. For the high official is watched by the higher, and yet there are even ones over him. He continues to go on, like the way that it's set up is that there are always people that are over people in work, and this is how it works. You as the employee, you work to make money for your shift leaders because they make more than you. They have more responsibility than you. They're higher in the food chain. And those shift leaders work for managers, and those managers work for district managers, and those district managers work for whoever, all the way up to the CEO, to the owner of the company. As you look at society, the teacher says, listen, don't be surprised that people take advantage of people because the whole system is set up to keep you down. There are people always above you. There are always people above you, making more than you, doing more than you. And he says, listen, the land benefits because of this. He continues to talk in, excuse me, He continues to say that in verse 9, but this is gain for the land in every way, a king committed to cultivating fields. Verse 10 says this, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is vanity. He says in verse 11, when goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage does the owner have but to see them with his eyes? Verse 12, sweet is the sleep of the laborer, whether he eats a little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. So we've talked about it. He's walked through wisdom and folly. He's talked about taking pleasures in his life and then abstaining from pleasures in his life just to simply work. And he goes on to say, you need to watch what you say to God, because this is sort of how the world is set up to work in its brokenness. And he says that not only in that, you need to make sure that you're checking yourself, because the way the world is set up, it gears you, it points you in the direction of going, I need to obtain this, I need to achieve that, I need to strive and move towards this. He says, go back to verse 10 for me. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. He said, this is vanity, this is worthless. I think that we can all understand this, because this is the nonsense that we live in. And I say nonsense in the most loving way I can. But we tell kids at 18 years old, you need to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I've had an 18-year-old kid. Sometimes they don't even know what to do with their underwear. We got to let them choose for the rest of their life what they're going to do, and we got to say, "What? Hey, come on now. What's taking so long? Hurry this up." I'm 40 years old and I barely got it figured out. I've been out of school longer than I've been in school, and it's still taking me this long. I think it's crazy how we said. But the idea is this: well, you got to go to school so you can make a living. Or so you can get an education, so that you can get a good job to make a good living, so you can have these things. And sometimes, right, in the world that we live in the culture that we live in, our mindset, while we are a part of a team, that team says some things and stands for some things that sometimes stand in direct opposition with the way the world has it set up to work. Now, don't misunderstand me. Wealth is great. We're going to talk about it here in a second. Wealth is awesome. Money is great. But if you keep reading, we'll get there. If you keep reading, he talks about this. Let me say this, right? When you work and you have set your focus to making sure that I'm going to obtain these certain things, right? The reality is this: when you set goals, you sacrifice to get those goals. Yes? Give me something. When you set goals, you sacrifice to obtain those goals. Yes? Yes, absolutely. You got to understand this. When you set goals, you got to sacrifice to obtain those goals. Sacrifice means you do without. That means you get rid of. Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac. He was going to do without him. He was going to get rid of him. It's over with. It's not mine. It's yours. Setting a goal requires sacrifice. So when you set the goal to make money, wealth, a job, a standard of living, when you set these as goals, understand that you sacrifice something. Christian, just make sure you're aware that you're not sacrificing what you shouldn't be sacrificing. Verse 12. This is simply just something simple, but sweet is the sleep of the laborer, whether he eats little or much. Why? Because he just shows up, does what he's supposed to do, and he bounces out. That's it. Some of us like the ability to go to a job, do a job, and leave and not have any responsibility in that. That's awesome. But the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. Well, he's got enough money to keep himself full. He's got whatever he wants. He's got all this wealth, but he doesn't get much sleep. Why not? I'd get a ton of sleep. You think you would? The amount of responsibility the laborer has compared to the owner, the person responsible, that it always goes. The stress. Well, the stress, the responsibility, the focus, the sacrifice. I watch students that would much rather have their parents be a part of their life than to have the things that they have. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy this. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy this, and it makes you happy. You're right. That truck, my wife bought me that truck, and I am dumb happy every time I get in that thing and look at that thing. But it's Hebel. Trying to load things into it, somebody says, well, I don't want to scratch it up. What do I got the back of it for? To use it. Yeah, it looks cool and I'll cry a little bit, but whatever, man. Like, that's the point of it. Let's use it. He continues on he continues on in this conversation. Let's go. Verse 13. It's a grievous evil that I've seen under the sun, that riches were kept by their owner to his own hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture, verse 14 says. The idea sometimes, right, is that when we set our focus on things, and this may not be you, but it could be someone you're in a sphere with, but I think sometimes it's more so us, not always in wealth, not always in monetary and money, but more times in status of life and how people view us and what we need to have so that we feel that we have made it. We've been successful. But he points out, hey, like sometimes the riches of an owner is kept to his detriment because it's a bad venture. He goes on to say that if you read through the rest of that, he talks about how just as we come into the world with nothing from our mother, we're going to leave the world with nothing. And so this person who has set his sight on wealth and set his sight on profit, this is a man, right? We're listening to a teacher that presumably could be King Solomon. King Solomon was worth over. What did they figure out? He makes $2 billion a day per our standard of living now. King Solomon would make $2 billion a day in our standard of living now. That's insanity. And to think that this man who had all of that income coming in said, everything is Hebel except for God. Everything is worthless except for God. You come into the world with nothing and you work this whole time to achieve whatever it is that you achieve. Money, success, wealth, power, status, the family, the life, the American dream. You come into this world with nothing. You work this entire time that you have. What's he call it? He calls it a brief moment on earth. You work this brief moment on the few days that man has on earth, right? And then you leave with nothing. He goes on to talk about that. Well, actually, that's in verse 6. At the end of verse 5, he says something that I want to point out. This is in verse 18, Bill. I feel like he's really given the business to understand you. It doesn't matter how hard you work and why you work. It will ultimately lead to nothing because just like you came into the world, you leave this world. So he says this in 18. Behold, I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil. Toil means work. In all the work with which one works under the sun the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. So, what the teacher has found out is that the only thing, no matter what you've been given, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter how you live, right? You can do it all. But this is what I've found to be good, is to enjoy the work that you have and what comes from the work that you have while you're here on earth. Why? Because God gave it to you, for this is his lot. If you read in verse 19, let's keep going. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, rejoice in his work, this is the gift from God. Verse 20. For he will not much remember the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with the joy in his heart. As the contrast of sacrificing to achieve and obtain these goals, the teacher reminds us that, listen, as you work, the point isn't to get lost in the work so that you just continue to work for more and for more and for more. No, as you work, enjoy what you have, enjoy the work you do, enjoy the time that you have doing the work, because the time that you have, the season that you're living in, the lot in life that is allotted to you by the Creator, that's yours, and not only that, it was a gift. And when you simply sit and not sit in inactivity, but when you stay present in where you're at, I feel like verse 20 actually sort of does happen. Let me be very, very real with you. Spiritual warfare is legitimate. If you do not believe in spiritual warfare, understand this. You might actually be under attack now. It's 100% real, because we cannot say that we believe in a spirit that connects us all through a heavenly Father and ignore the fact that spiritual warfare is real. Since I was voted on in this church in October, the spiritual warfare on my life and my family is on a whole different plane than it's ever been on before. I don't say this for sympathy, I say this for reality. Because no more than now do I ever realize this is a spiritual warfare. My Achilles heel is my relationship with my wife. If me and her are good, I don't care about anything else. I don't care. It doesn't matter what I go through. It doesn't matter what's in my life. When I am connected to her and we are on the same page, I can do whatever. And I have full confidence, and there's evidence to support and get me to believe in myself when we are that way. The one thing that is the hardest thing to do is to stay on the same page with my wife. It's the hardest thing that I could ever do. But I will tell you this, that when I don't spend time in the seasons of struggle that we go through, as the enemy tries to constantly separate me from my wife, who, make no mistake, it may not be Satan, but you have an enemy. And he is there, and he is learning you. And they are crafty. They are playing chess when you think you're trying to set up checkers. It is a dangerous thing to ignore the fact that you, as a Christian, have an enemy. But as the enemy separates me from my wife, sometimes I get so wrapped up in the toil and the work that it takes that I'm done. I don't want to keep working, right? I don't want to keep going. But in the 22 years that I've spent with my wife, it has not been perfect. It has not probably even been excellent. But I will say this. When we both take the stance that this is our lot in life, this is what we have. We have each other because God has given us each other. Not only has He given us each other, He gave us 3 girls. He gave us these fur children that are cool, I guess. Gave us this life. He gave us this place. He's given us where we are at. And when we rejoice in the fact that God has given us what we have, when we rejoice that even though we're in a season of struggle, we rejoice to know that this is our lot, and it's not our lot by accident, maybe consequence of action at times, but the lot is allotted to us by our Creator, because this is His gift to us to enjoy Him working in all of this. I can tell you this, that even though there have been extremely dark days and dark times and dark seasons, that this chapter 5 verse 20 rings so true that I don't remember much of those times, because God keeps me occupied in the joy of my heart. When I take time to rejoice and enjoy my lot in life where I'm at, I sometimes find myself forgetting about all the bad. And I have to tell you that it's not me, because I'm broken and I'm not good. It's God. Just as it says, God keeps him occupied. Talked to a lady the other night who is going through things in life that no one would really want to go through themselves nor wish it on anyone else. But she is enjoying her life and her lot and her moment as she hangs out with people on a street, passing out candy from a car. I'm not saying life's fair. I'm not saying life's enjoyable all the time. I'm not saying that you got to always be hip, hip, hoorah. But when we find enjoyment in our lot, when we understand that what we have is what God's given us and allowed us to have, I promise you this, you will not look like that young man that walks around going, I'm never going to leave. I was born into this. I'm always here, but make no mistake about it, I hate this team. I've had an iPhone since the very first iPhone. I've tried twice since to quit. I have tried, I don't remember what it was. I bought some Android phone because of whatever reason, and AT&T at the time gave you 2 weeks. You brought it back in 2 weeks. It was a wash. Day 2, I wanted to take it back. I gave it some more time, day 4. I was on day 12, and I couldn't take it, so I got rid of it. Later on in life, something new came out, and I thought, you know what? I'm grown. I'm grown. I'm going to give it another shot. I literally had it for 3 days, and that's it. I don't want it. Take it back. It's crap. And all of you, listen, this isn't directed at you, but all of you that text me and have green bubbles, know this. I gag every time it comes through. Not only because it's not from an iPhone, but it's also green like the Green Bay Packers, and it's just gross. My mom went to Wisconsin Dells, and she was sending me pictures, and I deleted them all. And I said, Mom, get this crap off my phone. That's too close to Green Bay. I don't want to be infected. Stop it. Anyway, no, contentment, right? Contentment. If you read through chapter 6, we're running out of time, and I don't want to take it up and make it to where it's so long, but if you read through chapter 6, I do want to point this out. He talks about how the idea of when people create or they collect wealth isn't bad. Because the idea is sometimes, I heard this, and I'm going to steal this, it's not mine, but I love it. I heard this said when I was listening to things to try to prepare for this, and he said the mentality that we need to shift from when it comes to contentment, when it comes to being a conduit for what God has given us to look, sometimes we tend to take a pail mentality. I'm holding a bucket. I'm trying to collect as much as I can collect to hold as much as I can hold for me. It's a pail mentality. Put it in the pail. Drop it in the bucket. He said, the challenge with Hebel, the challenge with learning that everything is meaningless, the challenge to learning that your finances, that your monetary possessions are meaningless is that you don't have a pail mentality. You have a pipe mentality. A pail collects. But a pipe allows things to flow through. I have seen, my aunt and uncle from my stepfather's side. There's a family when Lila got diagnosed and went through cancer. A family in Florida who gave us a car. I cannot tell you, I can't. I could tell you all kinds of stories about generosity with people going, listen, it's not a pail mentality. I'm not collecting these things to hold them. I'm a pipe. God pushes them through me to you. I think we all can understand the need for someone to be a pipe for us because there are times and there are moments that we need help. And we need somebody to take what they have and to help us with it. I think sometimes we don't find enjoyment because maybe that mentality is really stuck in us. Maybe the mentality isn't so much, God, give me things so that I can use them for others, but it's, God, give me things so that I can have. Fill my pail. Don't flow through my pipe. There's a lot to 5 and 6. contentment is not something that I know a lot about. This is an extremely difficult few chapters to walk through, and I can't stand here and tell you that I got it figured out. I just know that as I've read through this idea, I was convicted of these things. Be careful what you say when you stand in front of God, because that is God, our Creator in heaven. Be careful what you say about your life, your lot that He gave you, because that is Father God who is in heaven, the Creator of all. You watch what you say. You guard your steps when you approach the house of God. Maybe that's not you, but it definitely is for me. I need to watch what I say when it comes to my lot in life. And the focus. While money is not always a focus for me because I've not really ever had any, the reality of possessions hits me real hard. I used to be that one that every time a new phone came out, I got it at the sacrifice of my wife and at the sacrifice of my children, at the sacrifice of my family, at the sacrifice of my financial situation. It didn't matter, I got it. And it took years to get to the point to where I wasn't chasing after those things. Because no matter what I went and got, I was never happy with it anyway, because when something new came out, I wanted it. So my focus was challenged this week, it's been a few weeks, but my focus has been challenged in this chapter of going, what are you truly looking at? What are you truly focused on? What's your goal? What are you sacrificing to allow that to happen? And thirdly, it was a mentality. How do I change? How do I change some of this? How do I challenge some of this? What type of mindset do you have, Jeremiah? What type of mindset are you living life with? Are you living with a pail mindset? Are you going, fill up my bucket, fill up my bucket? Or do you have a pipe mentality? God, flow through me. Flow through me to other people. Flow through me to other people. You guys might not think this, but there are people that think it's just wildly funny that we bring 75, 85 Pop-Tarts and 40 Capri Suns every Thursday morning to this high school. One, they're degenerates, and they'll eat and destroy anything you put in front of them, and it's funny. That's why I like to watch that. But two, we've gone from 8 kids to 35 students. We eat Pop-Tarts. We drink Capri Suns. I share my heart for 5 minutes. They goof off, they yell, they scream, they break things, they steal Pop-Tarts, they squirt Capri Suns, right? They do all that nonsense. And all of it's done from the generosity of you guys. The only reason we have the Pop-Tarts and the Capri Suns to begin with is because you allow God to flow through you in the littlest way. And we've watched over a year and a half, 8 middle and high school kids turn into 35 middle and high school kids. I don't know how much you're letting God flow through you, but just think if we cranked it up just a little bit more. Just open that pipe up just a little bit more and let more flow out. Imagine what could keep happening in this community if we all had a pipe mindset as opposed to a pail mindset. Next week, Al Rennert's going to be here, and he's going to be keeping our thought flowing through Ecclesiastes 7. So as you're preparing and as you're reading, we're going to be in chapter 7 next week. But we're going to end with a song. And, it's a song I think a lot of us know, if not all of us know. And it's a song that, in truth, it's a song that chants something that I stand completely on top of. In all of my character and all of my personality and all of my charisma and all of my gifts, talents, and shortcomings and failings, I stand completely on top of the song we're going to sing. Because truly, without Jesus raising from the dead and being alive, what we do today, what you do every day, is Hebel. Hebel. Everything is Hebel. Without Jesus, everything is meaningless, is worthless. And so if you don't know who Jesus is, if you don't have a personal relationship with him, then I can't say it enough. Come find me. Come find my wife. I mean, there are elders and deacons. You may not know them, and if you do know them, find them. But if you don't, come find me. Man, that sounds stupid, and I know that you're going to get sick of me saying it, but it's something that is becoming a chant of my life. But listen, if you hear nothing else today, hear this right now. Hebel. Hebel. Everything is Hebel. Worthless, meaningless, temporary, fleeting, a mist, a vapor. It looks like it can be attained, it can be grasped, it can be held onto, but no matter how hard you try, it can't. The only thing that's unchanging, the only thing that's tangible is God our Father. And the reason we have access to him is because his Son lives. And so if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to ask you to stand, and we're going to pray, and we're going to close out in song. Father, thank you so much for you. Thank you for your Son, Jesus. Thank you that he is alive, he is well, and he is at your right hand. And I pray, Father, that as we leave, as we try to love, as we try to live, as we try to focus on you, Father, that you just continually show us who you are. God, I pray that you will continuously show us how much you love us. God, I pray for situations. I pray for seasons. I pray for circumstances. I pray for the things in our life that we look at that make us go, this is the worst, and I don't want to be here anymore. I pray for family, and not just immediate blood family, but for church family, Lord, to be able to wrap around and to love. God, I pray as we leave this week, I pray that you put people in our life that we can show who you are and we can love the way you love us. God, I love you. I'm so thankful for this place, these people. I pray that you can continue to bring us closer to you and closer to each other. It's in your Son's name I pray, and all God's people said,